ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the channel. And let me just start off, as I always do, by giving love, be you Clydeside, Stateside or worldwide. Welcome back to Season 2. You should know by now, but if you don't, this is the Scottish Falcons show. And now this is episode 49. Just the start of what's bound to be an absolutely amazing season worth of content. But before we really tear the head off it and get into anything, I would like to shout out, as always, my co-host with the most, the kind of ethos getting this show on the road, the dynamo of the team, as I always say, Des Stevenson. How have you been, my man? As I say, there's been a lot of activity that we need to get through, so I'm glad to get into it with you.
And I think my business has been as mental as Ian Cunningham's been this week. So yeah, I mean a lot happening. Here we are thinking that it was. I mean, obviously we knew that there was a bit of depth issue. But Ian Cunningham's walked in and thought, "Nah, I'm just not having this," and sure enough, he's got the checkbook out and he's went on a spending spree. If you could say that.
I did see one meme that I loved. I thought you'd appreciate it, and I went back to find it, and I couldn't find it for the life of me. But it said something along the lines that Ian Cunningham's planning on bringing in 20 free agents. Bro's legit playing out.
Oh.
And I was like, that's pretty good. But no, it makes a lot of sense because as much as it is a spending spree, there's value in a lot of places, which we'll get into in just a bit. But before we do, as I say, we like to shout out our brothers and sisters in the chat. And our Celtic brother to start us off, the Scottish Warriors are back, so it's good to see you as always, Floyd. Tip of the cap to you, my brother. We've also got Smooth C, good to see you. There is some buffering issues in the back, so bear with me. I will try and get that worked out. Shout out to Lil Robert, chilling and grilling. We were just chilling and talking birds, and Tony Hall there with the red and blacks. We love to see that as always, don't we, Des?
Yeah, it's not a show without buffering, mate. It's not a show without buffering. What can we say?
We keep on grinding. By the time the season rolls around, as we so often say as Falcons fans, all we do is put our head down and keep on grinding. And as we say, talking about grinding, let's get into it. So the man himself has been hard at work, but it has been a committee affair as well. So shout out to Ian Cunningham, the new general manager, as well as the rest of this 2026 Falcons staff, obviously doing their due diligence. Because if you want to talk about the free agency tracker for this season so far, as Des said so aptly, I will give you a little bit of a better zoom in of that, but that is one retention in addition to 12 new signings. As I say, a lot of one-year deals in there. I don't want to throw out the word prove it because that can be a little bit cliche or misconstrued, but you know what I'm kind of trying to say. But as I say, a lot of guys of value. And in the next section, we're going to talk about, as I call it, shout out some standouts. Because I feel like it's been a great class overall. But Des, I'll pass it over to you, my brother. I mean, do you want to talk in general about how you feel? Do you feel like it is an improvement, or do you think there's still work to do?
Oh, I think there's still work to do, mate. And I think we've seen that in AJ's contract getting restructured. I think we are currently sitting at just round about $28 million in cap space now. The draft is, if we've only still got 5 spots, the draft's not going to be it's literally going to be probably $4.5-5 million to effectively pay the draft that we bring in. So why he's restructuring AJ's contract, he obviously is looking at what's out there. He's obviously seen some of the free agents or some of the releases that's happened and thought, I think I need to get a wee bit more space here and go after some of these players. But I can't remember ever in the time that I've been a Falcon supporter seen such so many signings coming in, and obviously a lot going out as well. You know what I mean? I think the biggest shocker of anything was Caden Ellis retiring from football. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's literally he's gave up on football. You know what I mean? So no more football for Caden Ellis. You know what I mean? So
do you know what? He must be a smaller guy than he looks to be on TV, Des, because he seems to like to dwell in basements. That's all I'm gonna say about
that. Probably that was probably the biggest kick to the Gullies on anything in the free agency. But again, I think Ian Cunningham has shown that he's not prepared to overpay. It's a case of if it's not within our valuation, then you can walk. We'll let you walk. There's other players out there that. And again, when you look at the amount of players that are getting released or the players that are hitting free agency, there's some really good players. I think on Ian Cunningham's presser, I think what he says is he wanted to effectively bring up the floor. So I think he wanted to effectively the backups, bring the backups up to a grade where they've played quite a lot of games. It's not a case of JD Bertrand getting through into a game when he's literally not played any games. So I think what he's looking at is he wants these 1 year deals to effectively bring a bit of stability. That'll then allow him, as he says, to bring in the draft players. And I think currently, we're sitting either 10 or 11 picks for next year in the draft. So again, he's a man of his word. He turned around and said, "I'll never ever again have 5 draft picks." And he's went into the free agency. He's allowed players to leave, and he's building up the draft picks, and he's then bringing in effectively players that are not going to go against the compulsory picks that we would get from the players that are leaving. So that's a benefit. And again, I don't think the players that he's brought in, as he said, he thinks that the team's got better. Now, a lot of these players I don't really know much of, and I don't know a lot about them. So again, we can only see that when the year comes round. But you can't say he's not been busy. And again, that's only a good thing from my point of view. Bearing in mind as well, he's literally only in a month. So effectively, he's had to take on what's available in free agents. What players does he want to let go? What players does he want to keep? So he's effectively had to review the full staff that we've got just now. He's had to start looking at the potential free agents. He also has to look at the draft that's coming up with the scouts. So again, he's got a lot on his plate, and while he's been doing all that, he's went out and got signings as well. So what I would say is that I can see a lot of pushback on Terry Fontenot and how Terry Fontenot done things. Watching it happen, I don't think Terry Fontenot. You didn't see a lot of issues with the signings that he done. He tended to be actually quite good in free agency. But what I would say, is that I don't think anyone could deny that effectively the backups were lacking quite a bit. We always had really, really good wide receiver good number 1 players. But if any of them get injured and we fell back into the backups, we were then effectively at the JD Bertrands, you know what I mean? Yes. And the Dylan Drummonds, and I mean players that effectively should have been in the practice squad and not seen anywhere near the actual first team. And he's to mention
a certain Mr. Elijah Wilkinson, who we will talk about in a little bit as well. That's a fella with whom we will have a little bit of conversation too, if you want to talk about outgoing free agents, and we'll cover them all as we say just in a little bit down the show. But before we do, a tip of the cap to our good brother and someone who we hope to have back on the show very, very soon. As I say, another one of the spring from which we flow, so to speak. So shout out to Mike. He always shows us love. And as I say, we hope your birthday recently, you had a blessed one there, brother. But yeah, let's get into it. And as I said, I promised Des or warned him, I should say. Let's be forthright. That this is going to be a little bit of a rant, but I will pass it back, as I say, pass it back across, because I wanted to kind of go in deep into exactly what we got here, what kind of value you're talking about. And as I say, with the one retention, that being a very, very good one, I'm going to run down that full list for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this message away real quick. So there we go. As I say, so just as of today, you've got Samson Ebukam, a linebacker / edge out of the Colts. Now that's a 9.5 sack guy back in 2023 in Indianapolis. You add in former Georgia Bulldog Channing Tindall, former, as I say, Arizona Cardinal and Miami Dolphin. Guard / center competition there with Corey 11. Defensive line help as well. 3-tech D tackle Chris Williams from the Bears. As I say, Tua Tagovailoa being the big one, who we will talk about in just a little bit. D end, but I'm going to look at more or think about it more in the context of being a defensive tackle, that being Deshaun Hand, who we brought in from the Chargers, I think it was. Then you've got Jake Bailey and Nick Folk, as I say, to shore up top 5 within their respective positions, to shore up the special teams as well. A lot of linebacker depth as well with Christian Harris and Cameron Thomas as well. Then you're, as I say, bringing back Laquille London makes a lot of sense. 7 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, and a forced fumble on his 30 tackles last season. So it makes a lot of sense to get him back in there. And then, as I say, Austin Hooper and Jahan Dotson offensively. So, as I say, quite a talented group. And I'll go into, as I say, 3 guys on offense, 3 guys on defense, and then, as I say, I'll show a little bit of love back to the special teams as well. Given the fact that I've kind of put up 2 mock drafts now on the solo channel, I'm kind of thinking now, where's Ian going? I've tried to, as I say, and as we've discussed before, shore up, get some draft capital. So we're looking at 7, 8, 9 picks potentially. So that's kind of what I've been playing around with. With that being said, I've got 2 draft options that I feel are still very kind of sound for us to look at as well. So I'll go into that. So as I say, starting offensively, I'm going to put this to you. You have a true number one in Drake London. Then you add in the fact that we've signed Jahan Dotson from the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, his numbers haven't been outstanding, but as I say, you know the type of offense that Philly like to run. So I feel like with what we do, he's a solid sort of 2-3 option, dependent on what you do with that number 48 pick. Now, as I say, we love our homecoming kings, and Austin Hooper is one of them, coming back to as essentially bulk up that tight end room, give us some depth there, which again, as I say, was quintessential to what we needed this season as well. Lets us run a lot of 12, 13 essentially, 13 personnel as well, potentially assuming you hold on to Charlie Werner. Or get David Njoku, but that's something that, as I say, money talks, and it's something that you can obviously kind of throw into the mix. As I say, at the moment, I don't think he has been signed, so just a little something to talk about as well. And then something that obviously it's going to be my pleasure, and hopefully I'm going to be joined by some of the family on that as well to break down Tua Tagovailoa in a lot of detail. So we are doing a mini series which I'm calling Tua Talk. And we're going to really break down some film, the highs, the lows, the warts and all, so to speak. And then, as I say, I'll put to you a little bit of a scenario on defense as well. You kick in this new guy, Deshaun Hand. He's have him play as a 3-tech defensive tackle alongside London in our forefront. You do need a true Mike to pull this off, so that's something we can talk about. And then, obviously, you add in Samson Ebukam off the edge. He's dynamic, strong, with a good first step as well, and pretty quick hands. And then, as I say, I prefer personally, and this is just me, You can argue if you like him with a hand in the dirt, but I prefer Aziz Ojulari as a stand-up OLB to a true sort of defensive edge. So that's kind of what I'm proposing to you would be the changes in this Ulbrick defensive front, which again I like. And then, as I say, what they're also doing as well with the signing of Channing Tindall, as I say, there is a propensity and an almost a dire need at some points to keep these homegrown talents within the great state of Georgia. So a shout out for that as well. And then, as I say, when you're talking special teams, you can't do fairer than this. A top 5, potentially top 3 punter on a 3-year deal there in Jake Bailey. And the one that I'm not to be candid, I wasn't 100% happy about this because I liked what Zane Gonzalez had brought. It was that consistency that we'd been needing. But as I say, we'll kick the can down the road just a little bit more for 2026. We've signed Nick Falk to be the kicker as well. So the one more thing that I would add before I kind of pass it back to my brother on my left here is 2 options from the draft that I feel like looking forward, I'm looking at and I like to add, and that would be Anthony Hill Jr., the linebacker out of the University of Texas. I feel like he brings a lot of what I was saying. If you switch to that forefront, he's going to be a great true Mike in that sort of Caden Ellis-esque role, sideline to sideline speed, just being the true sort of step up athletically speaking, the captain. Just getting in there on a little bit of everything, so to speak. And then my last guy that I want to shout out personally before I push it back is if you're looking 5th, 6th round, you want someone to replace the outgoing Tyler Algier. I feel like you can't do better. Go back and watch the national championship game if you need footage to back up what I'm saying here. But obviously, Kalen Black, a very strong, very dynamic runner as well. So that's an option that we can get. We can definitely look at as well. So how are you feeling about it all, Des? And shout out to these guys in the comments before I let my brother take over. So Southside Ricky, Falcons Nation over everybody. The guy already knows. And a happy St. Patrick's Day back to you, Floyd, as well. I agree.
Right,
Getting rid of Kirk and Mooney for me was good as well.
Right, I'm going to right, Floyd. Obviously, you've got the Irish heritage, right? And I'm going to say something. I actually share on St. Patrick's Day. I always share a meme, and the meme goes, "Everybody is Irish in St. Patrick's Day except the Scots. The Scots will always be the Scots." All right. Now, I know there's a lot of, like, my great-grandmother was Irish. I've always had this, I mean, there's probably as much in America Scots DNA as there is Irish DNA. And I could probably ask every single person that's watching just now if they can tell me when St. Andrew's Day is. And I guarantee you none of you would tell me that it's the 30th of November. So we listen, if you want to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, fantastic. But my day is the 30th of November. I'm a Scot. I love my country. And I hate Guinness. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I like
Patrick's
Day,
Day,
but I'm not a Guinness guy myself. But yeah, but no, yeah, look it up. As I say, we don't only celebrate St. Andrew's Day, of course, as well. We'll get Burns Night as well, which is where that's where we terrify the Americans of the world and whip out the haggis, the neeps, and the tatties, so to speak. As I say, some of you guys, because obviously a lot of you are in the South, I've heard that you're adventurous when it comes to cooking. So if the boys do make that journey again, we'll be sure to pack some haggis and bring that for the flight as well.
Yeah,
shout out to our brother as well, Emmanuel from Fandemic. I've only caught clips and I do need to go back and rewatch it, but that was a fantastic show you all done last night. So if you haven't had the chance, go back and check it out. So shout out to the Atlanta Falcons Fandemic channel. As I say, a frequent flyer brother. So much love there. Sorry, Des, you were saying, brother.
I was going to say, like, the haggis is a bit like what a Scotsman wears under his kilt. You just don't ask. Don't ask what's in the haggis. Don't ask what's underneath a Scotsman's kilt. But
trade secrets.
Absolutely. But as we were talking about, obviously all the signings and everything, it's still apparent that cornerback, obviously D. Alford's away. So effectively, we need to shore up in cornerback. Obviously, Tyler Algier is away. Ian Cunningham was asked about Nathan Carter and said that he felt that he needed another 2 signings at running back. So again, it's not a well. I'm talking about this. I was shocked how small the contract was for Tyler Algier. I think it's only is it $6.5 million for 2 years? I think. Is it
I think it's 2 years, 12.5. I think with incentives, I think it could be as high as 16.5. But even at that, we were talking at one point about 3 years, 22 was proposed. So it wasn't out of the realms of possibility. I feel like he was in no way pricing himself out of the team. He wasn't asking for an astronomical bump in pay level there for what he was contributing. And that's why it's tricky to replace a player like that. My concern, and a shout out back again, because it was Mad Mike who got me thinking about this one, is when you are a physical runner, as Tyler is, when you are a power-based runner, your clock is limited in certain aspects. So I worry about his longevity with given that running style. Obviously, I have nothing but love for Tyler. I feel like Arizona got a great back there, and I feel like he's going to do wonderful things out in the desert too. But with that being said, you have to draw the line somewhere, and as much as he was painful to lose,
I think you're at a point where you can, at that position, you can only have one superstar. You know, I mean, we don't know what was in his head. He maybe wanted to go and effectively be an RB1 somewhere else, and he's going to be that at Arizona, because I don't think their run game's very good. So effectively, that's probably a better position for him to take over there. I was just, and again, the one thing I would say is that Ian Cunningham, Matt Ryan, the coaching staff, none of them are really tied to these players. So, I mean, we have been talking about it probably for months, about the fact that this was going to be the last year that Tyler Algier was going to be here. We can't be in a position where we're going to have to probably knock it out the park with Bijan Robinson with the contract we're going to give him, to then have another running back that's walking out with $6.5-7 million a year. When you effectively see how deep the running backs could possibly are in this draft, and the fact that it's a position that's really looked down on. In fact, if you look back to when Bijan Robinson was drafted at number 8, there was a lot of pushback against drafting a running back at number 8. He then came in and done what he wanted, what he could do. And at that point, I really believe him and probably Saquon Barkley, always get his name wrong when I say it. They effectively pushed the running back position further up the ranking of important positions again. And again,
and I feel like another guy who needs to get his flowers there as well is Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit. That kid is fantastic. Like, I have a lot of love for, as I say, I'm a diehard Falcon, but cut me, I bleed red and black, but I have certain level of love or appreciation for certain players, and all respect to Jahmyr Gibbs. That kid is fantastic. And someone else who's fantastic, if you've never paid attention to the Lady Bird show, is our own resident auntie. Pam, it's good to see you as always. Hell yeah. And then no more angry runs from Tyler in Atlanta. No, we're going to have to find another angry runner. And that's one tweet that I forgot. There is a lot of media and obviously work that goes into putting these shows together. And now you've just reminded me, Ricky, that I have let you all down. So I must apologise. But I will drop it in now. I did see one in response to running back, and I don't think we can do it for the money that we currently have. I'll put it out there. But all the same, it's a fun thought experiment. How would you feel about having the brothers Robinson, so to speak, and bringing in Brian Robinson Jr.?
Brian Robinson.
How would you feel about that?
I don't think he would kill the bank, mate. Do you know what I mean? Has he been released or?
To my knowledge, I think he's gone now. Yeah. I think he was released in Wave 2, so you're talking around about the 12th, maybe 13th. As far as I know, if I'm wrong, please correct me in the chat, guys. But as far as I know,
well, Ian Cunningham has come out and said that they need to make more signings at running back anyway. So there's a possibility that could be on the board. It would just make it even worse, because I remember this time probably not, just at the start of the season, the fantasy football came in, and you seen the guy picking B Robinson from, I think is he Arizona or?
I think it was Washington.
Yeah. And then somebody decides to tell him it was the B Robinson that he was supposed to be picking. So
it was almost an Obi-Wan Kenobi moment. This is not the B Robinson that you are looking for.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we need to what I would say is it sounds daft, the fact that we've went so long without getting into the playoffs, and we've went so long without actually having a winning season, but we have to show a bit of patience. I think the one thing you would say is that a lot of the players he's bringing in, some of them have suffered injuries. So, again, there's a big risk there. But again, Ian Cunningham is looking at it and saying, well, if these guys can get back to fitness and show what they've been able to do historically, then it could be a good year. And as you said earlier on, it's a prove-it 1-year deal for most of these guys. I think Jahan Dotson got a 2-year contract.
And I think Jake Bailey got a
3-year contract.
But these guys are guys who are going to contribute. But I feel like the rest, because I think, I don't want to go crazy here and go over the top, but I think from my check it was 10 draft picks and $107 million in cap room for 2027. So we have wiggle room to give up a little bit of next year to get what we want in some aspect. As I say, or alternatively, if we're building for next year, we keep the guys who are doing the business, and hate to be harsh about it, but trim the fat, so to speak, and bring in new bodies in 27.
And again, we have to remember that we've got Drake. I mean, we need to get Drake London's contract sorted out. And when you look at some of the contracts that are going, it's going to be north of possibly 30 million a year for Drake London. When you look at some of the players out there that are getting contracts at 28, 27, 28 million, and Drake London's far better. So we always said the fact that Terry Fontenot took it so far with Drake London before agreeing his contract, Drake London's got us under the cosh a wee bit. So it's a case of, effectively, we need to give him, as I said before, his agent is at a position where he can ask what he wants out of this franchise. Jahan Dotson isn't going to replace Drake London, so we need to get Drake London sorted. We also need to get Bijan sorted as well. You know what I mean? I don't know whether this is maybe the reason why we've done the AJ and the Jake Matthews restructuring. That he's obviously trying to get more space for the Drake London contract. Maybe the Drake London contract's already been agreed in principle, and he then has to free up this space to effectively then at that point, because I don't think it's officially kicks in until the 1st of June. Is that right?
You would be right. That would be the kind of official turnover. And that's another great point by Mad Mike. He's kind of not thrown a spanner in the works, but he has given me kind of cause for thought, because when you talk about a player of Drake London's caliber, he's been here long enough to realise where we're kind of going with things. He's built that, as I say, that kind of rhythm now to a certain extent with Michael Penix. as I say, we've got the continuity, which is something that we'll get into in a little bit when we start to tease a little bit of Tua talk. But you have the continuity that you have two left-handed quarterbacks. So therefore, the trajectory of the ball, the spin of the ball is going to be consistent all the way through. So that's going to make things a hell of a lot easier for the pass catchers. So I think it's going to be easier in that way to explain it on an on-the-field level to them. Plus, obviously, at the level at which we are pushing for success. We're pushing to win the NFC South. So I feel like hardball maybe wouldn't be quite my approach. I would appeal to his understanding and say, kind of what we've got here, and you want to be part of this. So let's kind of have a little bit of talk. That's where I'm at. How do you feel, kind of, Des? If you're sitting in the Falcons office going, I need to pay this guy, and I'm looking at what, say, a CD Lamb or a Jackson Smith and Jigba, or I'm not putting Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson because those contracts are pretty silly. But the guys, obviously, that's sort of 30, 32, 36 mil a year, sort of top upper echelon of receivers. And I feel like he's right in that mix. Look at the Mike Evans deal. And I feel like at this point in his career, and this may anger you, or you may disagree, and you're welcome to do so if you are a Tampa Bay Buccaneers supporter. But he's better than Mike Evans. I'll throw it out there. Drake London at this point in Mike Evans' career is superior to Mike Evans. I said it.
All I would say is that you look at, as you say, consistency. You look, he effectively gets drafted, and then his quarterback's Marcus Mariota. You know what I mean? Then it's on to Drake, Desmond Ridder, and then Taylor Heineke. You know what I mean? And then it's constant all the time. Literally, Kirk Cousins, Michael. But I mean, he's never had consistency for the numbers that Drake London has put up. He's never had consistency at the quarterback position. So you look at the numbers and you just imagine if literally we were in a position where that was Matt Ryan, and it was literally Matt Ryan was 10 years younger, and he had Drake London from 22 to now, the numbers would be far higher and far better than what we are seeing. From my point of view, there's a few positions you need to tie down, and effectively we're in a position where we went from Matt Ryan and we struggled at the QB position to actually get that franchise quarterback. We were lucky that effectively Julio Jones walks out the building, and literally within a year or two we've got Drake London in the building. Not that I'm saying Drake London's Julio Jones, but his numbers are impressive with the inconsistency he's got at quarterback. I'm telling you that now, there's only a few positions that if we lost a player at that position, I would be devastated, and Drake London's one of them. So listen, it's all good getting literally play hardball, as Mad Mike says, but if Drake London decides that he's not taking the contract and walks away, I guarantee there's going to be 10 or 15 teams that are out there ready to give him 35 million a year. Guaranteed, because he is just a phenomenal player. And if we lost him, it would impact our team unbelievably bad.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with that. I feel like he is one of the guys, along with your Bijan Robinson, along with, like, as I say, one of the cornerstones, Chris Lindstrom, of this team, especially from an offensive standpoint and from an aura standpoint, and the sort of team identity that we put across and put out there. And as I say, when you want to talk about obviously consistency and spines, a shout out to Mad Mike. We're glad you're enjoying the show. Shout out to all of you down in the chat. We hope you're enjoying the chat so much. Anytime you want to get us on for a chat, I'm happy to do so. As I say, so long as it ain't too late. But as I say, time dependent, I'm happy to come on and talk about it anytime. There's a lot to talk about, and it's going to be an interesting off season for sure. And as you say, not just Drake, but we've also got Bijan to kind of talk about as well on a contract sort of level. And I would say that was fair. We can't really kind of throw him into the Julio Jones mix, but Roddy White, Drake London, I like that.
Yeah,
That's a good shout, Ricky.
Listen, Julio Jones was a phenom. I mean, he was literally he's a one-off. I'm sorry, but he literally is a one-off. So hopefully, I mean, he's retired now, so hopefully we'll see him in the Hall of Fame soon as a Falcon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, what I would say is that I would say, well, the biggest concern is the fact that effectively, I think Ian Cunningham is looking at Ulbrich and saying that effectively he thinks that a lot of the work that happened last year was on Ulbrich. And effectively because he's for the fact that we was number 2, I think it was 57 sacks last year. He's not been slow in allowing some of these players to walk out the door. I had a wee look at the statistics. So statistically, last year we've signed 7 sacks and we've let 12 sacks walk out the door. So there's not a lot, but you're looking at players like Onyemata was 1 sack, Kentavie Street was 2 sacks, Ebiketie was 2 sacks, Caden Ellis 3.5, and Leonard Floyd 3.5. We've then brought in Chris Williams. He was 1 sack with the Bears. Deshaun Hand, he had 1.5 sacks with the Chargers. Samson Ibukam, he had 2 sacks with the Colts. Azeez Ojulari, which is probably one of my favourite signings. Obviously, he was injured last year with the Eagles. He had no sacks. Cameron Thomas, Cleveland Browns, 2.5. And then Channing Tindall, 0 with Arizona Cardinals, and Christian Harris, 0 with Houston Texans. So effectively, there is a lot of, as I said earlier, we need to have a lot of patience. I remember going back, rebuild was a bad word, but this effectively is Ian Cunningham bringing in 1-year veterans to effectively get everything in place so that he can start drafting the players that he wants. But I would say that he's let a lot of that D-line that had the 57 sacks last year walk. I was surprised with Leonard Floyd because I don't think Leonard Floyd was going to. He would maybe have been with $6 million a year.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So again, I think the one thing about Ian Cunningham is he's looking at the players, and if they're not within his valuation, he'll just let them walk. Which is again, you want somebody in charge to be like that. You want them to have a philosophy that they stick to, and they won't bend for anything. One be interesting thing that again we have seen is that he is not focusing, but there has been a few Georgia Bulldogs signed.
Yeah.
And I seen a tweet and it said that effectively Ryan Pools tended to draft quite a lot of Alabama and Bulldog players. And again, that's not a bad philosophy. You know what I mean?
No.
If you're sitting in the 5th round and you're wanting to take a player, what's wrong with taking a player that's been at Georgia or Alabama? It just makes
nothing
sense.
at all wrong with that. I mean, I'm gonna as much as it galls me to say it as a Texas fan, like you can't go wrong with signing anyone from the powerhouses of the SEC. If you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. And as I say, I'm not convinced 100% that that's another debate that we can get into, and I'm happy to have that. But I don't know if this Manning's going to prove as worthy of the name as some others. And shout out to Wallace Smith, first time watcher down in the chat. Great to see you as always.
How you doing, Wallace? That's a good Scottish name. Good Scottish name.
Yeah, so we were just talking in the draft chat about it. So if you want us to drop some Scottish history on you, we're happy to do that. If you want to go back and watch the playlisters, as I say, I think we try at this point to present ourselves not just as a sports show, but also to kind of a cultural hub. I'm not sure, like some sort of strange, I don't know, social club. I don't know. It's kind of evolving, ever evolving, but we love it at the same time.
The other thing as well that I want to mention as well, I just watching Ian Cunningham getting interviewed, it's I've seen a lot of disrespect towards Ian Cunningham because effectively the two former Falcons that we brought in, there was a lot of questions. I mean, Austin Hooper got asked the question, did Matt Ryan have a lot of input into you getting signed for the Falcons because he's played with you? And Austin Hooper's kind of looking at the reporters as if they say, what a daft question. Matt Ryan's already come out and saying the general manager will do what the general manager does and he'll sign the players. I'm pretty sure that when Lamade Zacchaeus and Austin Hooper were available, that he's went to Matt Ryan and said, what kind of players were these guys in the changing room, blah blah blah. And I'm pretty sure that Matt Ryan had probably a lot of great things to say. But the fact that the disrespect that came out of some of the reporters about the fact that there was a couple of Cleveland Brown players that were signed, and as if this is some sort of, Kevin Stefanski's had input into that. Yeah, obviously he's the coach; he's going to have input.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's the general manager's job, and Matt Ryan said that the general manager will sign the players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and to be honest, it's quite a naive and silly thing to say to put that all on Stefanski, because we also brought in the boy Corey Levin, the center from Tennessee, who is a Callahan guy. So it's not just a Stefanski thing. You want to talk about the guys that are Tommy Rees guys or the guys that are Alex Van Pelt guys, because although we didn't sign a quarterback, well, we did get Tua, but he's not an AVP guy. But I'm saying we shouted out, I think it was a while ago now, maybe 10, 15 episodes ago, but we were talking about Alex Van Pelt and his level of success and some of the guys that he's worked with. I proposed Russell Wilson at one point purely based on that standpoint, but as I say, so here is where we kind of sit currently.
I mean, let's get into that, mate. If you want to start talking about Tua, because effectively, sure. I shared the tweet when I seen the Daniel Jones contract that said that the contract could be up to $100 million over 2 years. I put out a tweet saying that effectively Tua cost us 1.3% of that contract that they're possibly going to pay Daniel Jones. You look at some of the other players that were signed. I've bookmarked a couple of them because I wanted to make this point. Let me just have a look.
I can throw one in while you're pulling that up, because for me, one of the most egregious is Malik Willis to Miami. I mean, how, with the level of play, although it was okay, remember it was on the Green Bay Packers, who are one of the top probably 8 teams, 10 teams in the league, depending on who you ask. So yeah, he's going to look good if he's in a consistently good scheme like Green Bay. And that's what we say a lot about San Francisco. You don't have to have a fantastic world-beating quarterback. If you've got a perfectly good quarterback who fits that system, then you can run and you can make a good run at the Super Bowl off the back of that. And this is why I wanted to really break it down, and that's why I came up with the whole kind of ethos of Tua talk. As I say, you're more than welcome to join me, because I think it's going to end up a 3 or 4 part mini-series, Des. But, I mean, what we actually got for the value, I mean, it's vet minimum 1 year, so it's non-committal. Also $1.3 million. It is nothing because of obviously the amount. I think it's, I don't want to throw it out there if I'm wrong, so if I am, please correct me in the chat. But I think it's the highest amount of dead cap a team has ever eaten on a quarterback. for this to a move. So I mean, I'm happy for Miami to eat it.
90, aye. So effectively, all in all, it's like $99 million. I seen a crazy tweet and I had to check it, and it was true. And effectively, the tweet was that Kirk Cousins was paid the same amount as it's costing us to have Tua for a year. He was paid that amount and a half.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And then when you look at like Trey Lance signed a 1-year contract with the Chargers for $6.75 million. So that's one. Then I'm just looking down. Then you've got obviously you were talking about the Malik Willis one. I mean, that was like,
yes.
I mean, that is. I mean, I was stunned by that, because it's like,
yeah.
I mean, it's like, I think, is there like $28 million guaranteed in that contract?
I wish there was $28 million guaranteed, bro. 40
million. I mean, that is
yes,
just
sir.
For a player.
40 million guaranteed. I tell no lies.
He's played six games he's played? He's played 6 games.
6 games.
That's ridiculous. This is, bear in mind, this is a 3rd round. I mean, this guy was picked after Desmond Ridder. He was picked after Desmond Ridder. So when you look at that, and again, I think the only one that's similar is the Kyler Murray contract, where he's on vet minimum as well, going to the Vikings. But the money out there, as I say, I'm just clicking down this to see what else.
Well, I feel like if the Chargers hadn't gone Trey Lance, I feel like there was two teams. I was kind of going back and forward, and I can explain to you why. Kyler is a smaller quarterback. I know we've all seen the memes and what have you, but I mean, at 5'10", to be honest, he is a smaller than average quarterback. What I love about either Minnesota or it was the Chargers, if they hadn't got Lance, is the fact that they have fantastic, and not to mention if they're healthy, humongous tackles, and the guards ain't too bad either. So I could, that's why I kind of seen them. So Minnesota makes sense. Again, especially on vet men, but I'm kind of glad we got Tua just for consistency's sake. As I say, that's something that I really want to get into, because I'm going to look at a lot of different film. There's plays specifically from, I know we don't want to relive the pain, but pain is international. So if we've got to go through it and talk about it, then so do you. So if you're watching or listening, then I'm about to make you endure something. But look at what he did to his last season with one eye.
I know.
If you have that rhythm and timing, you can tear a team apart. And he's got an arm. No, it's not the strongest, and no, he's not the most. I don't know if accuracy is the question. I was going to say he's not the most accurate, but he doesn't commit to some throws, and they're under throws, and then they're picked. It's like if he gets behind an offensive line like ours when it's healthy, you know what we've got on that O-line.
That's what I was going to say. This is the best O-line that he's ever going to sit behind, mate. It's the best he's had in his career. As I said before in the last one, Alex Van Pelt has just became the most important coach in that changing room. Because effectively with Penix and with Tua, I think I'll be honest, I think Penix has got a higher upside, but at the moment, Tua is the better quarterback. Tua, you can't argue with this, mate. He's literally played 5-6 seasons.
Yep.
So he's got the games under him. The one thing I would say about Tua is if you want to pick a stadium where he's going to play most of the time, it's going to be the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. He won the CFB title at Mercedes-Benz. He literally came in last year and absolutely destroyed us. I mean, he ran amok in that first half. absolutely ran amok with us. So effectively, if we get that tour, then it's all upside. Probably the only, and again, with us being Falcons, the one downside is the fact that if, and again, I'm open to all at the moment, and I love Michael Penix, and I think he could be a franchise quarterback, but we're at a point now where we can't be all in on that. We need to have another option. Now, it's a possibility that Tua comes in, starts the season, and literally goes off in one. And then we're at a point where effectively we get to the end of the season, and if he plays as well as he could play, there's going to be a lot of teams out there ready to give him a large contract. And that might be at a point where we have to question, what are we going to do here? Are we literally, it's the same as where the Vikings were when they had Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy. And I think they went the wrong way. They should have signed Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold at that point was the best quarterback. And we might be in a position where we get stuck like this as well, where we've got Tua literally playing one of his best seasons in Atlanta, and then we're at a point where, well, do we pay him the $40-odd million a year, or do we stick with Michael Penix Jr.? That's probably the biggest downside we could have with Tua this year.
What I would say, I mean, this is really getting into the nuts and bolts again, and it's something I'm looking forward to bringing when I do introduce the film side of things. This is quite an interesting conversation and topic. So that, again, shout out to the frequent flyers, the guys down in the chat that keep us going and keep the chat going. So shout out to Raymond, Dr. Falcon, Dr. Dirtybird down there. I don't know per se if Tua is the world beater. As I say, bringing him in on a vet minimum makes complete sense. But what I love about his play style, and it goes back to what he says here, if Tua and the O-line can stay healthy, we do have a chance. Because what I like is if we've got a healthy O-line unit and they can stay consistent, they can block to a level where Tua can do his favourite thing to, as I see it, make up for his biggest weakness. Now, the QB in the chat, Mad Mike, can confirm or deny this for me. He knows a bit better than I do, having played receiver, not QB. But he is able to then roll out and plant his back foot. When he then plants that back foot, he is able to load, and he's got full torque with the body, so he can really get into those throws. Or really, actually, I should be doing that because it's coming lefty, as we say. But he then is able to step into the pass a little bit more and make up a little bit for that, not lack of arm strength, but I mean, it's not top tier. It's not Justin Herbert or Josh Allen level, is kind of the point that I'm trying to make. But he's wise enough to kind of compensate for that if he has the space and time to do so, which he will in Atlanta, all being good. And obviously, if that O-line can stay healthy and keep him vertical. And a fair point from Pandemic too. As I say, the frequent flyers are hitting heavy and dropping some nice points tonight, and some truth for you also. Tua's record versus the NFC teams is not bad. It's not, as he says, it's not anything to write home about. But if you look that up, it's not the worst reading in the world. And I feel like that's kind of where I'm at with it. A lot of Falcons fans are like, not Tua, anyone but Tua. And I feel like Kyler Murray was injury prone as well. I'm just going to say it. Look back, it's easy to be proven self-evident. That's why he's on a 1-year vet min in Minnesota. There are reasons for these guys being where they are. That being said, and the concerns that I do have for his longevity, I feel like he's in a great position, and as are we as a team. I feel like that isn't I feel like it's win-win. And as I say, the best part about it isn't even the 1.3 million for me, as much as that is a fantastic, as I say, value pickup. The bit that gets it for me is a 1 year. Regardless of what happens, if we don't have a winning season and we're down there, then we can shop his value should we cross that bridge. So I don't see a point. I don't really see a kind of bad side to this. As I say, there are concerns, certainly, Des. But I wouldn't say I put any of them outright put me off, and I'd say all in that it's a very wise pickup for the Falcons.
I mean, I was looking for the tweet and I can't find it, but it was a tweet that's effectively the last 6 seasons that Tua has got more wins than the Falcons in the last 6 seasons. I think he's like 41, and effectively we've got a losing record. So I think that the biggest concern again is the injury. But again, if you're Alex Van Pelt, you're going to be I was going to say batter it into Tua, but obviously I don't mean that quite literally because he's concussion issues. You're effectively going to be drilling it into him that effectively you don't put your body on the line, do not take a concussion. You need to think about yourself and effectively protect yourself. As I said, he's behind probably one of the best O-lines that he's had in his career. But you don't, and again, what I would say is that with him effectively having a 1-year contract, he's going to be in a position where he wants to go out there and prove everybody wrong that he is the right man to lead the team. So, but you don't want him to be doing that as a case of effectively putting your body on the line to take chances. That's what we don't want. And effectively, if you're Alex Van Pelt, you're saying to him, listen to we need you to stick to this plan, do what we ask you to do, and do not put yourself on the line where you could have a concussion. That's probably the biggest worry for me is his injury issue. And again, putting that on the part that we've also got Michael Penix Jr., who's injury prone as well. What I would say is that effectively it's quite strange in this situation because we might actually be one of the only teams that could bring in a number 3 quarterback and pay him more money than a number 2 quarterback with the money he's making. Don't get this wrong. The whole reason why Tua is here is Tua believes that effectively he can win and rejuvenate his career with this O-line, and this offense. And he believes that effectively the Falcons will be able to work with him in a way that he might get a big payday at the end of it, or they will allow him, because I'm pretty sure there's been conversations had what's going to happen at the end of the year if I'm the quarterback for the team. Effectively, I think that conversation's probably happened. Will you stand in my way, or will you allow me to go? And I'm pretty sure there's a chance that he walks out the door. You know what I mean? But we don't want to be in a position where we're in the same position as with the Vikings, and we let a franchise caliber QB walk out the door for potential.
And this is the point that I really wanted to make. I was kind of going to save it and kind of have it as one of the key points to the episode. But, I mean, to shout out the guys in the chat again, Emmanuel's talking about the free agency moves. They're not jumping off the chart, but we're welcome. You're obviously welcome to come on and talk about how as a team we can be better. Obviously, we're kind of getting into that draft cycle. So, I mean, if I'll put it to Des in a little while. There is a couple of bits we wanted to get through first, but if you want to open up a little bit towards the end, we're happy to do that. And as I say, Kyler Murray was something that I wouldn't have been too mad at, but I prefer Tua because, as I say, if he stays healthy, he's more of a scheme fit. As I say, the continuity issues, talking about the left-handedness as well, talking as a pass catcher as well, it makes a lot of stuff easier. But one thing that is particularly interesting, and I will get to it just before we do open it up, is we'll take chance to obviously talk about some of the guys that are flying on. As I say, the restructure of AJ Terrell's contract, we spoke about it a little bit earlier on there, Des. So we're freeing up a further $9 million. Do you feel this is going to be used to pay the incoming draft class, or do you think this is something that's going to be a case of and maybe another little value sign in there?
I think just one thing I want to mention. I think the thing that I was surprised with is that and again, I'm not going off in the subject, but I wanted to mention this. Let me just find it.
Yep.
Kyle Pitts. Now they're saying that the franchise tag this year could potentially be $20.5 million for the tight end, which when we were looking at it before free agency, they were saying it was approximately 16 million. So effectively, if you're not wanting to pay Kyle Pitts $20.5 million this year, you know what I mean?
No,
at $16 million, then fine. At $20.5 million, that. So again, it's a case of, is he keeping Warner? He's brought in Austin Hooper. Is this a case that we're effectively franchising tag Kyle Pitts to trade him? You know what I mean?
Because of the fact that you've got the Njoku elephant in the room as well. Because I mean, that's a Stefanski guy as well. So I mean, if we do move on from Pitts and we do trade him before obviously the period's up, then that is something that obviously we could do if he's still floating around when that point comes. So it's definitely something to talk about. And I mean, this is the point of the free agency period where we start looking at guys for depth and for, as we said before, not to be harsh, but the 1 year prove-its and things of that nature as well. And as Raymond says as well, the worry is, what are your rivals doing? I mean, we all respect to the teams around the South. I'm not to shout out the Aints, but as good a player as Caden Ellis is, speaking for their offense and our defense, I don't fear Travis Etienne. I don't. Do you, Des?
No, I don't, mate. No, I don't. Effectively, the biggest issue you've got with Caden Ellis is what age is Caden Ellis? Is he 30, 31?
I think this is his age 31 season, yeah.
He's 30, so effectively July will turn 31. So, I mean, looking at his contract, Caden Ellis, 33 million, 3 year 33 million, up to 39 million max value, 23 million guaranteed. I'm sorry, but listen, I love the guy. He's a fantastic player, but you're not paying a player at linebacker, especially when you see the amount of issues that Troy Anderson's had with injury, and the fact that he was out. I think Caden Ellis did play. It was Deon Diablo that was out a few times. You've got Diablo, you've got Troy Anderson. Again, Troy Anderson's a freebie at this point. I think he's restructured his contract. We're getting him for like $1.1 million this year. And again, fair play to Troy Anderson for doing that. This effectively is he either does it or he's gone. I mean, I think he'll be out of the if he doesn't start this year and gets into the team and has another injury, he's out the NFL for good. So effectively, this is the last year for him. But again, you're not paying a 31-year-old 23 million guaranteed. It's just crazy, mate. But again, that's the Aints for you. The Aints look at we can get them from the Falcons. Listen, if we'd assigned them, fine. But if we'd assigned them and it was that amount, I'd have been questioning that, mate. As I say, that's why, as I'm questioning the Kyle Pitts, I'm not paying Kyle Pitts $20.5 million this year. I am just not doing it. There's not enough there. He would need literally, and I know he was the number 2 last year, but he would need to literally be in the top 3 this year, no doubts, and be an all-round tight end for me. I mean, I just wouldn't pay that money ever to a tight end, mate. So again, we're at a point where effectively, if you're Kyle Pitts just now and you can walk away with $20.5 million this year, why you want to look at your contract and sign a new contract? You know what I mean? So again, it might be at a point where Ian Cunningham's saying, right, that's fine, we'll tag you, we're going to trade you. We'll maybe get a second or maybe a second and a fourth or something for him. And that gives us some draft pick. the one thing I would say is that what I'm seeing from a lot of comments on Twitter with the draft this year, there's a lot of teams that are trying to build that up their draft picks for next year. I think the depth for next year is considered a lot better than the depth for this year. So again, it might not be a bad time to have just 5 draft picks. What I would say is I'm pretty sure that Ian Cunningham has literally got the scouts sitting there in front of the screen, looking at every prospect they can possibly look at for undrafted free agents. I'm pretty sure there's plenty out there, and he'll have it and be saying in no uncertain terms that he wants, because effectively, if you've only got 5 draft picks, we need to build up some of this 90-man roster with undrafted free agents.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And as I say, the guys in the chat are agreeing with us. I'm not paying him 20.5 million. There is no way you can justify that to me. He didn't prove his worth, as Raymond says. So I agree. And we've got obviously the first round picks coming up. We've got a lot of picks in 2027. And objectively speaking, it's a good class if you know what to look for. And I hate getting all technical, but it's a good class if you know what you're looking for. And the positions in need where I feel like we can improve: corner, wide receiver, maybe another linebacker, possibly someone else to throw into that mix in the front 7 in terms of the defensive line. These are guys that obviously you can get this year in the draft, at least for a competition's sake. We're on so many 1 years anyway. While those guys are developing, obviously, I'm all for obviously getting those positions I need through the draft, even if it is only the 5 years, the 5 picks, I should say, this year, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. But one thing that did interest me when you are talking about the draft is it kind of threw a spanner in the works, because I didn't kind of think of going quarterback per se, but the fun of the QB battle in Atlanta might just be getting started now, because what we have heard here at Scottish Falcons HQ is that not only potentially are you going to have MPJ, and not only are you going to have now the incoming guy Tua, but concerning the president of football there, who has also been recent visit to the University of Georgia Tech, ... ellipsis, pause for dramatic effect. So there's the photo itself. As I say, the Matt Ryan, Ian Cunningham over at Georgia Tech there. And then what it did make me think is, does this pertain to yet another QB?
Oh, he's went. Oh, he's gone. I'm sure we'll get him back. So effectively, so talking about the visit to Georgia State. Oh, here he is back. I've watched a few of the Georgia State games, but I don't know much about Haynes King. I think is he considered, what position was he considered to be drafted in? Is it a third or fourth round?
Yeah, day 2. So we're talking kind of late round 3, early round 4. But at that position, I don't think quarterback's in the mix. So it would lead me to, that's not where he's going. But obviously, given the fact that he's made that visit himself, it's not just been a Cunningham thing, you wonder kind of what they're doing. So that's kind of all I wanted to do, was kind of throw that into the mix, just to get you thinking, because it did give me pause for thought as well.
What I would say is, I think probably the biggest thing that I seen from the visit of Matt Ryan to Georgia was the fact that Mohamed Sanu was there with him.
Yeah.
So that effectively asks the question. I don't think Mohamed Sanu wasn't but did he come from Georgia State?
Mohamed Sanu, I think Ole Miss, was it? I'm not sure.
Let me just check. Mohamed Sanu.
Yep.
Sanu came from So Rutgers. So he was Rutgers.
Rutgers.
So he
Oh,
might
okay.
actually be there. So he might actually be there helping Matt Ryan look at wide receivers. What I would say is where we're talking about this, probably a bit of news today was that Casey Concepcione, the Texas A&M wide receiver, he's had a small bit of surgery today to clean up his knee, I think. So effectively, he was projected potential first round, early second round. So with that, they're saying that he will be available for his draft day and everything, but effectively that might put a lot of people off. So he might actually fall into Atlanta's hands. What I would say is that you're talking running back, cornerback, and I don't think we've signed a nose tackle. Have we brought in a nose tackle?
No, that was why I kind of went the way that I did. I wanted beef in there, and obviously the re-signing of Laquelle London's great, but he's not a true nose. He would be a 3-tech. Yeah. And I feel like the same would be the case if he kicked Deshaun Hand inside. He lacks maybe, with all due respect to his technique, I feel like he lacks maybe 15, 20 pounds to really kind of put him in that space eater kind of territory. But as I say, a great guy to have for competition. I feel like Deshaun Hand is a good one to have. Officially listed at end, but as I say, he's a cheeseburger shot of being a 3-tech any day in my book, and that's kind of where I like him. And as I say, I schemed it out a little bit earlier, and I do like the prospect of that. And then obviously Ojolari having space to roam off at one end, and then Jalen Walker from the other. And as I say, shout out to the guys in the chat again. I will apologise for this one, because as I say, I don't want to jeopardise what quality we already have had. It's been a fantastic kind of chat with you all tonight. So we're going to put back the opening of dropping the link, all that good stuff, getting you guys on to share your thoughts as much as we would love to have you on, and we will very, 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 very soon. That's something we're probably going to kind of put on the back burner until episode 50. So we do appreciate your patience and keep the comments coming. We'll grind it out as much as we can in the meantime, because it seems to be holding not too badly. We've covered sort of the most of what we wanted to do. We've just gotten through the Heinz King sort of thing as well.
Well, let's go on to the controversial bit if we want to talk about Elijah Wilkinson.
Yeah. Before we close it off, let's do it. I mean, we've jumped around a little bit, but this was, people are going to say we were avoiding it. No, we were looking forward to it, honestly. But when you're talking about free agent departures, as I say, our thanks to guys like Ebiketie to the Eagles, D. Alford to the Bills, Darnell Mooney to the Giants, Caden Ellis. I'm sorry to say he's gone back to New Orleans, but all the best.
Retiring from football. Caden Ellis is officially retired from football. As far as I'm concerned, he's retired from football.
I will make that change. I will go into Madden and I will make that happen tomorrow. There is no Caden Ellis. I do not know this man of whom you speak. But no, and then of course Tyler Algier as well. So shout out to the entire Algier family again for all their love and support over these first 49 episodes, and all the best out west. I can't wait to see what you do in Arizona. So I will say that much. But as I say, we can't have all good things all the time in Atlanta. As much as the passion is international and we do enjoy having a good laugh, we need to address the elephant in the room, that being offensive tackle Elijah Wilkinson. Now, to be essential, to take it down to its basest point, it's classless. To really get candid about it, it's a lack of class, a lack of professionalism, not as a human being but as a player, to not appreciate what you had, and to just speak about facts. And again, if you want me to get into film, I'm going to be talking about Tua, so you're not going to see too much of him. But if you want me to do a film breakdown of Elijah Wilkinson, we can see exactly where you didn't get paid. I mean, fair enough. You followed Tyler out west. I wouldn't know personally his feelings on how he feels about you having you blocked from for another year personally. But yeah, I ain't too happy about it, bro. I can understand what he's saying from a rah-rah, sort of eye blacked up and going to war sort of standpoint for your team, but rein it in, bro.
I mean,
Like, it's Arizona. If you want to talk about a perennially miserable and underachieving franchise, you got one out west. And like, shout out to another one of the frequent flyers chat. Our sister from another Mr. Jill, because her husband Andy is a Cardinals fan. So commiserations, because if we got it bad, wow. What have you got to say to that, Des?
I mean,
it's bad.
As Southside Ricky says, he called the Atlanta Falcons a clown show, and then decides that he's signing with the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, there's only a few teams that you can effectively go to and not have an option to call any other team that you've ever been to a clown show, and one of them is Arizona Cardinals. Literally went off on Kyle Pitts and Darnell Mooney, said a few things about them. I mean, it was effectively Elijah Wilkinson is in this position because Caleb McGarry got injured and then Storm Norton got injured. So effectively, we had nowhere else to go, and we put him in. And to be honest, I think he's going to go to Arizona and he's going to get found out because effectively he had a good O-line around him. And he was our weak point, and it showed numerous times he was our weak point. And again, he's then going to go to an O-line that's not as strong as what he's had at the Falcons, and then that's when we're really going to see a clown show. But as you said, it was disrespectful for everything the Falcons and the fans have done for him. Effectively to go out and again, what it all started because one of the fans said that they were glad that he wasn't there because he sucked. But again, you just ignore that. You know what I mean? You're literally walking into a contract where you're making, what, 2, 3, 4 million a year. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, have a bit of class and step up above and be a better man. And he decided not to do that. And to be honest, see if I'm the general manager in Arizona, I'm looking at this and going, this ain't the kind of player I want in my franchise. You know what I mean?
You're one of the cornerstones, the edge of your offensive line. Like, it's not the way a captain talks or carries himself. And to say it was unprofessional is a bit of an understatement, in my opinion. It's something that we're going to have to rectify on the field the next time we head out west, or the next time he comes back home to the Bends. That's something we're going to have to see about, because as Ricky and as Raymond say in the chat, and I'm inclined to agree. Don't make me pull up the film, but if I have to do that, I will. And I'm sure you'll back me up, Des, because there was not a lot of highlights, shall we say, to be 100% honest. We did spend a lot of time, and as I say, if you go back and watch the kettle sessions, the live watch parties for the games, they'll tell you everything you need to know. There was some harsh and colourful language, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, as I think is it Southside Ricky? Southside Ricky said it was Elijah Wilkinson that got his arse put in the ground when Michael Penix got injured. You know what I mean? He was our weak point. You know what I mean? So effectively, the one thing I would say about the general manager is that effectively he's come in, looked at all these players, and thought, you know what, it's. I mean, as Falcon Cheeser says, he wouldn't have been a starter this year. He would literally, he was depth, and he's maybe going to Arizona Cardinals, and effectively he'll get found out because he'll be sitting next to a no-line nowhere near as good as the Atlanta Falcons. And effectively it's who's Arizona Cardinals quarterback?
No, there's a question. Have they signed anyone yet?
Um,
You'd have to remind me. I just done the breakdown and now.
Arizona Cardinals quarterback. Jacoby Brissett, and they've got Gardner Minshew. Now, Gardner Minshew was one of the ones that I was going to mention about when I was talking about Tua, because he's just signed a contract as well. Let me see how much he got. Let me see. I'm just so I signed a 1 year $8.25 million contract with Arizona Cardinals. So it's Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew. It's and to be honest, I probably, if I've got Elijah Wilkinson in front of me, I would probably play Gardner Minshew because he's quite a mobile quarterback. Because he's going to need it with Elijah Wilkinson in front of him.
I feel like it's an interesting battle though, QB wise. I feel like Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew bring a lot of the same things. They're both experienced guys who have a tenure of coming off the bench and getting things done to a certain extent. So it's just going to be who wins the battle. But I guarantee you, and to back up Brother Raymond again, even like it doesn't really matter whether it's Jacoby Brissett or it's Minshew behind centre, because you're not going to be a starter. So I think he really needs to rein it in, remember kind of who he is, and have a bit of self-awareness before he tweets. Like, as I say, that's one of the downsides to being online. You know how much we love doing this show. Like, it is an absolute pleasure every time to interact with the guys across the world. But this is one of the problems when you give everyone in the world the potential to have their own platform. Like, yes, you can have opinions, but there is a time where you're just being objectively silly for your own, from your own standpoint, never mind from the standpoint of either your ex team or the team that you're going to. That's kind of where I stand. So, with all due respect, bad move, Elijah. Bad move.
I mean, effectively, as I say, he's going to go in there and get found out. If you're looking at any, I mean, listen, I think Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew, they're okay quarterbacks. But effectively, if you're picking what team you think is going to tank for Arch, I think it looks to be Arizona. I think these are just bridge quarterbacks. They'll go in there, they'll compete, and they'll get them through the season. And effectively, the general manager of Arizona Cardinals will literally be playing the Texas quarterback. Comes out of his shell and actually has a fantastic season this year, because I think they're hoping that they'll be in a position to sign him at the end of the year.
Do you know what? I feel like you've just kind of went and brought a tear to a glass eye there, because that is a Hallmark movie moment. You are trying to put Manning and Harrison together again by doing that. And it's not bad. It's not bad for Arizona if they can. I mean, if it falls that way, that's pretty interesting. As I say, it's going to be dependent on how Arch Manning develops this season. If he can get over the hump against Georgia and things like that, if he can really prove that he is one of the top quarterbacks in college football, then that's a conversation that we can maybe have, because he may not even be number one. If he plays to the level he played at last year, he'd be mid first round, if that, maybe later first round. So I mean, it's all going to be dependent.
I think his name will get him up the board further. If he plays the same as what he played, I think his name will get him up the board. There'll be some quarterback coach that will look at that and say, "No, we can bring him on. Just sign him. Let's develop him. He'll go somewhere where there's an older veteran, and effectively he'll develop." Talking about that, obviously, Justin Fields has went to Kansas City Chiefs. So he's signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Kansas City Chiefs have gave a 6th round pick for him. So that happened earlier on the day. So again, when you look at that quarterback class, then there's not many left. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's crazy, mate.
Yeah, like things do get slim pretty quick when you're talking about it. And I completely agree with Ricky. Not to kind of be too mean about it, but he does have a great sort of future in the practice squad. And shout out to some of the guys, because we saw some things that we liked in pre-season last year, all that good stuff. So Chris Blair has been signed to a reserve and future contract. I know that there's a bunch of guys, so that's something I can get into in the 50th episode. But and two names that did stand out to me, I know I keep getting them mixed up because there's two of them. It's either Casey or Carlos Washington, but the running back,
Carlos Washington.
Carlos Washington.
Casey
Thank you.
Washington is the wide receiver.
This is why it's best to be a duo, because I forget things and he keeps me right and vice versa. So as I say, on that ethos, I think it's time to kind of trust that the internet holds out long enough to kind of do the socials. And obviously, thank you all for your time. If you do have any questions in the meantime, feel free to shoot them out. Shoot them across out in the chat, and we will get our best to get through them. But as I say, first off, what we want to say is we want you to be part of the Kilted Revolution. As I say, you've seen how electric this chat has been. Some of the frequent flyers as well, who we're going to have back on in person very, very soon. I'm working on a new stream host as well. So all that good stuff is coming. So if you want to earn your kilt, then obviously we will leave the socials for you just at the end of the show before we shut things down. So give me a shout. Give a shout out to Des as well if you obviously want to. Obviously, you can get at Miss Maggie as well, because the whole thing is international, as we say. And what I would suggest as well is that we also have our new home HQ, just for Des and I. We wanted to expand what we were doing in the world of sports. So it wasn't just Falcons, it wasn't just wrestling. Sorry, it wasn't just Falcons. It was wrestling, it was baseball, basketball, and I know that you're having a little peek at the Hawks. You said you weren't going to touch on basketball, but I think I'm slowly working on them, because as I say, I need to get back into it as well. But no, as I say, it's a pleasure to obviously do this show and to obviously give forth that ethos as well. That we're the voice of not just the Falcons fans in Atlanta itself, but all over the world. So to go a little bit Scottish on you, moan on and earn your kilt. Because as I say, every one of the guys in the chat can tell you how sweet it is to obviously be on the channel, and we're thrilled to have you on whenever we get the chance to do so. So keep your eyes peeled as well, because there's a couple of special things to announce. Like as I say, I said it at the start of the show that this is now episode 49 of this whole adventure and experience. So the next time you see Des and I together, and as I say, we're both difficult men to pin down. We've got real stuff going on. We've got families, all that good stuff. But the next time you see us, which will be next Saturday, we'll be on together. It will be the special party, and we'll be dropping the link. So you'll get to see some of the frequent flyers on in person once again. Just having a good time as well. And as I say, I shouted this out on my solo channel as well. So if you're not subscribed, go over to Waddle Music, Sports and Media at Will the Thrill Waddle on YouTube. So as you see it there, WAD-L for your real spill. That's where I do my own kind of sports talk, media, and all that kind of good stuff as well. A little bit of gaming still to come. So if you know, there's good things coming all around. And speaking of good things, we also have to pass the love down south to our good brothers from the ATL Falcons UK, because, as I say, I am pleased because it's something that I promised all those years ago, almost 4 years ago now, when I started this whole thing, was that I wanted to provide an international platform for who I consider to be some of the best and the most consistent Atlanta Falcons creators around the world. And as such, as I say, the four guys are fantastic. So if you've not seen them on the socials, on the YouTube, then you're really missing out. So go give the four boys all your love. because, as I say, date to be confirmed once they get back. But as I say, I'm going to do a little 6-man panel, and it's going to be, well, I can only speak for myself, and then obviously we'll get your thoughts, Des. But I'm excited. I'm excited to do this. Obviously, open up the British Isles and really go into what it means to be a UK based fan. It's going to be something.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's effectively the main Falcons fans in the UK coming together. So I've met the guys. I've met them a few times when I've been down at the Falcons games. So good guys, passionate Falcons fans, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a fun talk. And as I say, we hope it's going to be something that we can hopefully do more often. At least once a season, we can at least agree to come together on that basis and see where things go. But no, all the love to the 4 lads. And as I say, all the love back to you guys in the chat, the brothers and sisters for whom we make all this time available. So we appreciate you all so much for watching. We apologise again while we're transitioning through to off of the dreaded StreamYard, because to the guys who have been on panels, especially to the guys that have hosted shows, you know that the yard gonna yard, but nevertheless, we might not love StreamYard, but Des and I do love OorATL as always. Before we bid you adieu and good night for the evening, my dirty brothers, my dirty sisters, I would pass it back to the Dynamo to sign us off. I do have one more in the comment. I love it. As I say, love as always to the frequent flyers, because, as I say, I know sometimes I need to go into boss mode, so I appreciate you putting up with me for all the creative sort of. I'm just going to come out and say it. Your boy's anal. He gets too involved in too many things, and everything's got to be perfect, and nothing ever is. You know, being an Atlanta Falcons fan, but we embrace it nevertheless, and we keep on rolling. So I'll pass it back to you to shout us out, brother, because without you, Des, none of this is possible either. As I say, having you as a sounding board sometimes, let's be 100% candid, someone to just shout out to and be like, there are days, as I say, mental health. We've had the mental health talk as well, where it's just like, I can't do this anymore, and I'll message Des, and he keeps me going. He's like, but remember, there's so much to get through, and there's obviously free agency and all that good fun as well. So even when the dark times come, you know that this Falcons family can keep you going and pick you up. So as I say, it means a lot, and we're going to keep the good shows coming. So shout out to Ricky, to Emmanuel, to Raymond, as I say, to you all for watching. Much love. Des, why don't you, as I say, I will do it in my best Glaswegian. We've went over the word Ned for you. So as I say, please subscribe to the SF Sports for more. But in terms of closing thoughts, we're going to bring it on home, as we always do. So I will pass it back to my brother from another mother. Des, take us out.
Well, as we always say, and hopefully maybe this season will be the last time we ever say it and we actually get some success. But pain is international, but so is passion. Thanks, guys.
New hashtags, Logan. Thanks so much. Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.